Should ultimate weapons be available for everyone to have? You know, those big glowing weapons that you usually see on people standing there away from their keyboard in Limsa Lominsa? Yeah. We're talking about those. This might be one of the most polarizing topics that has actually created much more upset than one might initially realize. We have content creators of all shapes, sizes, and forms posting the on-the-nose sarcastic posts about this. We have a more silent, deep, nested communities that are, to be frank, infuriated and feeling left out and feeling like this is a privileged class in, yes, a video game. It's a mess, and so let's get into it. I want to talk about ultimate raids for a moment and what they really mean to me and be transparent about even my own group. And I am looking at doing Dragon Song's Reprise, but I also work a full-time job. I also have so many other responsibilities on top of it. So people are probably just like, oh, why would you even talk about it? You're not streaming. Because it's not just a streamer thing. Like, Ultimate is not just for streamers. It's largely content that is a marathon. Getting people together for a prolonged period of time, usually the span of many months, like 6 months, can actually be reasonable to expect. And yes, I said 6 months. I didn't say 1 or 2. It can be like 6. Over those 6 months, it's just hitting it out with the boys every so often in the week, whenever you've scheduled it. I genuinely view it the same as when I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai classes before 2020. I'd go in twice a week for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and sometimes we'd roll even longer for a period of time if the mood was good. It's absolutely everything to do with consistency and being surrounded by people who are willing to learn with you and foster growth and achieve something worth achieving. Just week after week, showing up, being present, learning, and growing together. The ultimate weapon isn't just a glamour, it's actually an achievement. It's a stamp saying I stood the test of time through this content and I obtained this with my friends. I overcame this obstacle and hopefully had fun doing it. I would not do it if I wasn't having fun doing it. Just ultimately perseverance through literally months of consistently showing up and getting it in. That's what it actually represents. It's not just glam. The hardest part of any raiding has always been and continues to be getting a team of people together with similar goals, similar timelines, and similar mindsets. That's it. Once you have that, it's time to show up ready, fix yourself, and like learn from mistakes and get it done. Obviously, people with, to be frank, terrible personalities, or those who cannot take criticism, or those who aren't willing to learn or simply show up for 2 nights of prog each week prepared, aren't going to clear though. Really, when we talk about it, these are pretty bare bone expectations. I don't show up to potluck without bringing something. I don't go to a Christmas party without the expected gift or Secret Santa. I don't show up to those Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai classes without my equipment or without showering, smelling like an offensive, like, making it so that no one wants to even be around me. Like, this is basic. And it does not make me or other toxic people toxic to say that. It makes others immature for thinking it's inappropriate to show up on time and be prepared. That's adult human life. No one wants to roll during practice with Stinky that didn't shower, that is wearing street clothes with bad breath. From personal experience, you could be like, oh, but I can wear jeans when rolling. No, because actually it has like those little metal bits in it, and honestly, it can tear the skin really easy. So no. Definitely not. From personal experience, I got injured that way. Or people say majorly, no, it was just an annoying scratch, but it's like it literally tore through. Like, you show up prepared is what I'm getting at. I actually find it absolutely mind-blowing that somehow this has been lost on people, that it's been placed on some strange pedestal that is unobtainable, that you need to clear it in a week like a streamer, even when I know most of my audience is doing full-time jobs or going to school or both. Some of them are single mothers. Like, a grad student doing a 60-hour week of research obviously isn't going to be doing a week 2 ultimate clear. If you're trying to expect that, that's setting yourself up for failure. Those are not realistic timelines, and for most people, even a month clear or a 2-month clear is frankly out of your reach and will lead to burnout even if you do try, just depending on work schedules. Unrealistic expectations and frankly dehumanizing people is what I've seen lead to having so many people go astray from what this content's meant to be. People talk all the time about gray parses, but I know many people who have exactly parsed gay, and yet they are rolling around with 10 T real re-clear weapons in their inventory from T. And I know these people, there's not just one, there's like a bunch. Scandalous, I know. Parsing gay and somehow having T weapons. Oh, the scandal. How dare they? but they do. For some history for anyone newer to Final Fantasy XIV that might get the wrong impression from this, is we have an extremely friendly and welcoming set of content that this stretches all the way onward from the storyline to normal trials, normal raids, open world content, how's it gardening, and upcoming Island Sanctuary content. Relic content I'd even put in here, although I know that Delubrium Reginae, which I'm trying to say better, I've learned from my mistakes, Delubrium Reginae, but that from the last Relic content many considered way too hard. I personally loved it, but a large portion of the community certainly did not, as they said it was too hard, as I clearly heard in my comments section. So don't get me started on Eureka, which I did love. This is from Stormblood, but I loved Eureka and I completed so many weapons and armor sets from there, but that content was still like casual-ish, and many more casual players, to be frank, did say that they'd rather light themselves on fire than go into Eureka again, but it's more casual by far. The point being that 14 really gears itself to the casual player and accessibility. In fact, normal raids wasn't even a thing during A Realm Reborn. That was made in Heavensward and after. This has led to the other train of thought that Final Fantasy XIV is too easy. Expert Roulette. To be frank, Expert Roulette, look at that name. That's a meme. It's not challenging, it requires no expertise, and before someone comes at me, I have played a healer in this game for far too many years, and there are more tanks that I have seen that don't use cooldowns, no cooldowns, during a so-called expert dungeon that are doing single pack pulls than not. I have seen way more of that. Or white mages that are still spamming Cure 1, sages that are spamming normal diagnosis. It's a mess and very far from expert, is my point. Which I get me saying that might come across as toxic, but that's something I'll broach later, is like this. No, I'll broach it later. But my point is that the incredible majority of content is not difficult in combat. This leaves people to go seek out extreme trials, which is a pretty friendly middle ground that is very welcoming. I do recommend people, before they go into Savage, try out extreme trials, see how you like it. Which Savage raids, talking about them, strikes a very good sweet spot for the majority of raiders. They don't feel the need to do harder. This is challenging to them. This is something that they can get together with their friends and just enjoy. Which is what I was considering really like what to do when the Epic of Alexander came out, or when Uwu came out. To be frank, I didn't like the Uwu weapons appearance at all. In general, I'm not the biggest fan of the ultimate weapons appearance. That's why you don't see much of it. I digress. For years, when things were really intense for me, I was like, okay, this is like the perfect sweet spot for me, and I'll raid casually 2 nights a week, 2 hours. It worked, and that hit the sweet spot. This is also massively, intensely unsatisfying for more veteran raiders or people that can spend that extra amount of time in game, whether it is retired adults, streamers, and the like. The Savage raids are completed, to be frank, trivially in a week, and then they sit around wondering, okay, what do I do now? I don't know how many people on YouTube have said this before, but this is an important subsection of the community too. What are they meant to do when they do that? What is the challenging content? Obviously, I want to say that is obviously not the majority of players, and anyone trying to say that it is, to be frank, is misrepresenting the facts for God knows what reason. My point is that difficult content that we have that requires skill, time investment, and dedication is actually a small fragment of what we actually have, which gets us into Ultimate, which is the hardest form of content that we have offered in Final Fantasy XIV, and to date we have only had 3 of these released at all. 2 of them have been, in most people's opinion, significantly nerfed. That would be Yukab and Uwu. Oh well. The last one that we had was 2 years ago with Epic of Alexander. Actually over 2 years ago, because patch 5.11, which is when Epic of Alexander was released, was in November of 2019. That's a long time ago, which this led to an outcry of people's saying that people, like the devs, don't care about the top end rating talent in this game, and before Final Fantasy XIV became cool again, a massive exodus of these players to World of Warcraft or other games. And I remember seeing many big name creators actively ripping apart 14 all over, saying that they never plan to return. Oh, how the turntables. Oh, how short some people's memories are. But on the flip side, one can't really blame them for feeling that way either. If you don't have content to do that you are interested in, hence not having fun, why do something? Like, I think of my channel, and I do this for fun. Like, I make maybe 5% of my software dev salary from this, or something super minuscule. It just doesn't make sense to continue playing any video game if you aren't having fun. It can change no matter what you're doing. Frankly, my perspective is that ultimate weapons should not be obtainable outside of ultimates. I don't believe ultimate content should be made easier. In fact, part of me does take offense that the Ultimate Coils of Bahamut raid was made easier with more lenient DPS checks. That makes it feel like the fight was slightly watered down from its initial release date. What about people taking double Gunbreaker into them? Has anyone heard about that? Yeah. That's ridiculous. Not the same as it was before. Why I say this is not me trying to gatekeep. People are gonna be like, oh, you're trying to gatekeep a glamour. No! You're trying to access something that people worked goddamn hard for and persevered with other people for months. It's like, it's not gatekeeping when it's literally saying, okay, this was a specifically tailored content that we only have 3 of which to date, and then the last one was over 2 years ago, and for us to say, okay, we spent like 6, 7, 8 months grinding this out consistently with people, learning our classes, optimizing our rotations, learning all of these mechanics and executing them flawlessly, and we have this little stamp, and it's not gatekeeping to say, we want our achievement to be preserved. This is not like something like insignificant, nor is it something locked off. Anyone can go into the fight and do it. If you want the T weapon, why aren't you making a T group? Why aren't you? I don't think that makes me unreasonable to say. We have so many resources now, so many of them.